Oh, thank you all for tuning in to another edition of Outside the Shop with me, your host, as I'm kind of readjusting this laptop right now, Daryl Lane. Thank you for making me and this show part of your day, where I get to talk about everything on this show that I normally don't get to talk about my regular sports podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk, which you guys can all find on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, the whole 9 yards and deal there. Also, thank you to everybody who's tuning in via Twitter/Periscope, Facebook Live, and YouTube live stream. I appreciate that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, check out the link to the article below. Top 15 interior defensive linemen in this 2021 NFL draft class. Also, by the way, I'm going to start putting on the description for next show tomorrow. The top 20, I did 27, top 27 defensive linemen. So here's what we got today. And by the way, I'm gonna release a good pod tonight actually, and I'll just post it on Facebook and Twitter tomorrow. I had a good friend of mine, Chasey J, on, one of the co-hosts for the PSO Sports podcast. So definitely check that out. Also check their podcast out. They do a lot of great work over there. Okay, so here's what we got today. Julian Edelman announcing his retirement for the New England Patriots. Is Julian Edelman a Hall of Famer? Could he unretire? Deion Sanders makes comments about Ray Lewis and Ed Reed potentially coaching HBCU's XFL versus CFL Super Bowl. Nuggets, Jamal Murray, torn ACL, Mark Cuban, some comments on the NBA's play-in tournament. And Anthony Edwards doesn't know who Alex Rodriguez is. So a lot of interesting stuff today. And first we're going to, and also, by the way, Shannon Sharpe and Kevin Durant, they have a little bit of an out. You can't forget to talk about that. Now, first, what I do want to talk about this with Julian Edelman. Edelman is one of the better slot receivers to ever play the game of football. And as you just look at the stats and everything this guy did. First of all, I just want to talk about the story. In college, he played at Kent State. Now, I went to college in Ohio. Kent is like about an hour away from John Carroll. He was not the wide receiver. He was the quarterback. He was a 7th-round pick. He only caught one catch for 11 yards at Kent State. Didn't get a combine invite, was a 7th-round pick, and ends up being a 3-time Super Bowl champion, 1-time Super Bowl MVP, and one of the best slot receivers of this era. He's one of the best slot receivers of this era. And as you look at his stats, right, he had a good career-defining catch in the Super Bowl. 118 postseason receptions, second all-time to Jerry Rice. That's pretty good. Jerry Rice is the greatest wide receiver of all time. 622 receptions with the Patriots, second only to Wes Welker. 7 to 8 passing with 2 touchdown passes in the NFL. As a quarterback, they used him in a lot of different variants of different ways. He was a guy that could play on punt return too. Wasn't super fast, but really quick, strong, tough. Julian Edelman was great. And I think the interesting thing is going to be, is he a Hall of Famer? Now, I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but I'm going to just say this. Julian Edelman is not a Hall of Famer. And I've been saying this. I think we need to realize what the Hall of Fame is all about. Matt Ryan's not a Hall of Famer in terms of quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford's not a Hall of Famer. Donovan McNabb's not a Hall of Famer. I don't think Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer. So I'm sure I'm not going to put Julian Edelman in the Hall of Fame. Yes, he had some great moments. Yes, he has a Super Bowl MVP. Yes, he was a 3-time champion. But he was never a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. I don't give a crap about the slot receiver. He was never a top 10 slot receiver in the NFL. Was he ever one of the 5 best players on the Patriots team? Like was he? And there's also somebody, and Warren Sharp, I believe, tweeted this out, and this was interesting. In terms of wide receivers to play, Hines Ward, let me use Hines Ward. Hines Ward was a great wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's not in the Hall of Fame. He has way more catches, way more yards, way more touchdowns, the same amount of Super Bowl MVPs, way more Pro Bowls. Superior player his whole career. How the hell is Julian Edelman going to get into the Hall of Fame if Hines Ward's still knocking on the door? And Hines Ward's been retired for like a decade. Like, it's not happening. It's not happening. Then soon guys are going to retire like the Julio Joneses, the AJ Greens, the Larry Fitzgeralds. Andre Johnson's going to be coming up soon. Like, he's not a Hall of Famer. He's just not a Hall of Famer. And he has a place in the Patriots Ring of Honor, their Hall of Fame, however they do it. He has a place in our hearts as a fan favorite, as a great football player, somebody who was fun and exciting to watch. He was tough and had a great story, but he's not a Hall of Famer. He's not a Hall of Famer. The Hall of Fame is destined for the greatest men to ever play the game of football, right? That's what the Hall of Fame is for. It's not for guys who were above league average at their position or, play really good in big moments, but they weren't a great down-to-down player. Julian Edelman just was not on that level. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to get to this. Rob Gronkowski says that there's 69% chance Julian Edelman joins the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this is pretty good odds. Tom Brady's getting everybody to come back. Obviously, big Rob Gronkowski. He wasn't having fun in New England. He says, let's go to Tampa with Tom. Obviously, Tom Brady and Julian Edelman, they have a really close connection, really good relationship. We don't know what's going to happen with Antonio Brown and the Buccaneers. So I could see them deciding to, bring in a Julian Edelman. And maybe it's a deal that's halfway through the season or something like that, but I could definitely see that. So Deion Sanders says this. He says, Ray Lewis and Ed Reed want to coach at HBCUs. Do you know how big of a deal I think this would be? Because I think first when you look at a big name like Deion Sanders and he's at an HBCU, then you see a guy like Ray Lewis, right? Arguably one of the greatest defenders of all time. You have Ed Reed, arguably the best safety of all time. If both those guys start coaching HBCUs, I think you're going to have more players. Could you imagine if Ray Lewis comes into your room, if Ed Reed comes into your room, you're going to be like, okay, I can play for that man because that man has done it at the highest level. The same with Deion. So I think this is kind of big. I think this is kind of big, and I think this is kind of starter something. If you get guys like that being the head coach in terms of recruiting, I think it's going to take some prospects away from the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Clemsons. Obviously, not all of them, but I think it's going to poach a couple of guys, or maybe that 4-star guy that's thinking, do I want to be at Georgia and be that fifth cornerback and have to work my way up, where I can be coached by Ed Reed. He's one of the greatest backfield players of all time, and I can be the starter and then be the man for 3 or 4 years, right? So I think it's really interesting. Also, XFL and CFL reportedly considering playing a interleague championship game. I think this would be great. A tale of the tape. Who's better, the CFL or the XFL? I think this would be really interesting. I think this could potentially draw some big ratings. This is something I think I might tune into and focus on. And maybe you get some players that out this game, get some NFL tryouts, so I don't mind that at all. So in terms of the NBA, Jamal Murray announces that he tore his ACL. I think this is a big blow for the Denver Nuggets. Big blow. They were coming on strong. I believe they were like the 5th or 4th seed. They're done. They're not going to win a championship. They would have needed playoff Jamal to make a real dent. So this kind of takes Denver out, and it sucks because Nikola Jokic has been having an MVP-like season, and it just really sucks for the Nuggets. But on the bright side, I think this gives Michael Porter more touches, and we can see more of what he can grow into as a basketball player. So Mark Cuban criticizes the NBA playing game on ESPN, saying it's an enormous mistake. He talks about the hypocrisy of it. He says, why not have basically all the teams in the playoff game? Why is it only certain teams? He thinks it puts more of a load on the player's body. Now, I think all this at the end of the day is kind of BS because Mark Cuban's team, the Dallas Mavericks, they're like a 7th or 8th seed right now, and they're probably going to have to be in a playing game. So I think it's coming from a self-serving point of view for Mark Cuban, but I think Mark Cuban does have some points. Some decent points that I could get with, but I think at the end of the day, first of all, I think the play-on game, it gives good teams an opportunity to potentially make the playoffs. It gets good teams. Like, that's why we don't want everybody to get a chance, because it's like if you're the freaking worst team in the league, Minnesota Timberwolves, we don't want to give you a chance to be in it. So I think that's also the point of it. And also, more TV games, more ratings, more money. Everybody gets rich. More money gets rich. And I know Mark Cuban's a multi-billionaire, so it's like, what is money to him? But it makes more money for everybody. So I definitely understand doing it, and it was by and large a success. And Anthony Edwards. So Alex Rodriguez is going to be one of the owners for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Anthony Edwards, top rookie. He was the number 3. He was number 1 overall pick, because it was Anthony Edwards 1, James Wiseman 2, and LaMelo Ball 3. So he was asked about Alex Rodriguez potentially being the owner, and he says, I don't know who that is. I don't pay attention to to baseball. Now, I just want to say this to everybody. And please comment on this. Do you think if somebody tells you they don't know who Alex Rodriguez is that weird? Is that weird? Because to me, like, there's certain names that you know. Like, somebody doesn't need to follow politics to know who Donald Trump is. And I know that's more of an extreme example, but you could say, do people know who Kim Jong-un is, right? He's in North Korea, right? North Korea dictator. People know who Kim Jong is, right? Your average person knows who Kim Jong is that doesn't know anything like about the world. They probably heard the name Kim Jong. People know who Michael Jordan is. People know who Tiger Woods is. People know who Muhammad Ali is. People know who Floyd Mayweather is. People know who Conor McGregor is. People know who LeBron James is. People know who Tom Brady is. The fact that you don't know who Alex Rodriguez is, to me, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy. Now, you don't need to know who Didi Gregorius is. You can even tell me you don't know who Mookie Betts is. You can even tell me that in baseball. But if you're telling me that you don't know who Derek Jeter is and you don't know who Alex Rodriguez is, I got to question you. Like, who are you around? Have you never heard those names? At least for the steroid stuff, everybody's ever talk about who was in the steroid era. Like, I just don't understand how you wouldn't know that name. That's just a name you just hear in passing. So I don't understand that at all. But that's shocking to me. Or maybe I'm just wrong. So Kevin Durant and Shannon Sharp, host and commentator for Undisputed with Skip Bayless, they got into a little bit of a beef. And I'm getting up the comments right now. So basically, Kevin Durant gets mad, calls out Shannon Sharp because he misquoted him. Then Shannon Sharp comes back and says, KD, if you want to talk to me, I'm not hard to find, but I'm not going back and forth with you on social media. Whatever our differences are, they can be handled out of the eye of social media. So Shannon's basically one of saying, like, hit me up in the DMs. And obviously that worked out so well for Kevin Durant last time with Michael Rappaport, but that's none of my business. Kevin Durant says, old Shannon refuses to respond to me. Yo, Shannon, why are you using your platform to push fake quotes about me? And then Shannon says, KD, enjoy your day, stay healthy, finish the season off strong. And then Kevin Durant says, we can talk in front of everybody. It ain't that serious, Shannon. You go on TV in front of everybody pushing fake shit, and I'll just say it, fake shit. But now you want to talk in private. Why are you lying on TV, Shannon? Shannon Sharp ended up blocking Kevin Durant. I think Kevin Durant looks petulant and childish in this. Why is he like, first of all, and you can see Shannon's taking high road. He's like, if you want to DM me, we can talk personally. If not, I'm not going back and forth with you. Kevin Durant's 30 years old. Shannon Sharp's like freaking 50. They're both like grown ass men. Like at some point, it's like, why are you doing this? Right? It's like, it's different when you're like getting in fights every day and you're like 20 years old. Maybe if you're even 25, But once you're like 40, once you're like 30, once you're like really societally like a grown ass man, like there's just certain stuff you can't be doing. And basically, not everything needs to be handled in front of everybody. Like there's some stuff that is in the house business, whatever issue they have, they can DM it. And also when KD talks about, they can talk in front of everybody else. Obviously, if it was that serious where he said something that needed to be out in the public, he can Michael Rappaport, Shannon Sharp, right? Because Michael Rappaport and Kevin Durant, they had a private conversation that became public for all of us to see. You can do the same thing. Kevin Durant, if said Shannon Sharp said something that's crazy, screenshot it, post it, exposed, man. If that's really the way you want to go, I'm not saying you should, but I'm saying you could. But it's just petulant by KD. It's just petulant and just arguing back and forth with people on social media. And also, when you talk about fighting people and stuff like that, and you have issues, Shannon's not a dude I'd be talking smack to you. Shannon Sharp will beat the brakes off of Kevin Durant. So that's all I got to say. Everybody have a great day. Thank you for tuning into this edition of Outside the Shot. Have a great day, and